This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece on this Saturday early evening. Let's talk about some news and let's talk about the wartime economy, because that is what Collective West leaders and Collective West media is talking about. The need for the United States and the European Union to shift to a wartime economy and to ramp up the production of ammunition and weapons to Ukraine. This is the plan. This is the plan going forward. The United States and the European Union are going to shift their economies to a wartime economy, and it is going to be this shift towards a wartime economy that is going to provide Ukraine with the ammunition it needs to defeat the Russian military and defeat Russian President Vladimir Putin. So we had the EU commissioner in charge of the internal market. He came out with a statement. Thierry Breton. He said in a statement yesterday or a couple of days ago, that he's been working with Joseph Borrell, Jungle Joseph, and they're working on a plan to shift EU member states into wartime economy mode. That is what this EU commissioner said, because it's important that EU member states stop producing things that the citizens need or want to buy, and the factories need to start producing ammunition and weapons that the Zelensky regime needs. That's the plan. That is the plan. And Olaf Scholz, he met with Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son, the other day in the White House. And according to Bloomberg, and they're citing an unnamed German official as their source, but according to Bloomberg, what Biden discussed with Scholz was a way to move German military industry out of Germany and into the United States, so that the German military industry can start cranking out ammunition and weapons for the Zelensky regime. The Biden White House, they were concerned that German industry, if it were to stay in Germany, would have a difficult time shifting over to a wartime economy because of all the regulations and red tape and protests from the citizens and pushback, that the Biden White House came up with the idea of just telling Scholz, look, just take your industry from Germany and just move it to the US. We don't have any of those issues, and you can produce the ammo that the Zelensky regime needs. So that is the plan. That is the plan, shifting to a wartime economy. That's how they are going to defeat Russia. But always keep in mind that they're not a party to this war. Always remember that. The US, NATO, Germany, the European Union, they're talking about wartime economies and cranking out ammunition and weapons for the Zelensky regime as if they are in a war, but they're not a party to the war. Gotta always remember that. So, that's the plan going forward in a long list of failed plans that they've come up with over the past year. We had sanctions. Remember, sanctions were going to sink the Russian economy. The Russian economy was going to be in tatters. It was going to be in tatters, Ursula was telling us. And that was going to lead to protests in Red Square, and that was going to lead to the eventual downfall of Vladimir Putin, the regime change of Putin. Didn't work out too well, did it? Those shock and awe sanctions. Then what else did we have? Oh, then we had the HIMARS. Remember the HIMARS? Yeah, those HIMARS, the wonder weapons. The HIMARS were going to demolish the Russian military. And it was going to allow the Ukraine military to break through Russian defenses and make their way all the way into Crimea. Those HIMARS, that was going to be the wonder weapon that was going to deliver the knockout blow to the Russian military. Nope. Didn't happen. What else did we have? Oh, we had the great Kharkiv counteroffensive. That was the counteroffensive where Ukraine was just gobbling up all the territory, just mowing down the Russian defenses that were not there. But anyway, that's just a small detail. They were rolling through the Russian defenses and they were just grabbing all of the territory in Kharkov, and they made their way all the way to the Russian border. They even put an Instagram photo of themselves, the Ukraine military holding a border post at the border between Ukraine and Russia. That was it. It was only a matter of weeks before the Ukraine military was going to take back all the Donbass and then make their way towards Moscow. The Great Kharkiv counteroffensive. The collapse of the Russian military. That was the narrative. The Russian military is collapsing. It's absolutely collapsing. What was the other narrative that we were told about? There was the Kherson counteroffensive. Remember that one? Where the Ukraine military pushed the Russians out of Kherson across the river, even though the Russians voluntarily moved back to better defensive lines, but that's just a small detail. The Ukraine military, they pushed the Russians out of Kherson, and then they were going to make their way through towards Melitopol and eventually into Crimea, and that was going to be the end of the Putin regime. So we had the Kherson counteroffensive. Then we had the tanks. We had the Leopard tanks. Remember that one? That was just a few weeks ago. 500 Leopard tanks rolling through the Donbass, breaking through the border between Ukraine and Russia and rolling all the way to Vladivostok. Why not? Rolling all the way through towards Vladivostok. The Leopard tanks were going to liberate Ukraine, liberate Russia from Putin, and liberate Europe. The Leopard tanks. The tanks of freedom. Isn't that what they called them? Yeah, that didn't work out too well either. Then we had about a week of F-16s, but that narrative didn't, that one never grabbed on. That one never took hold. Maybe it was because Biden and Poland and every country in the EU said, we don't have F-16s to give you. So maybe that was why the F-16 narrative never took hold. They poured cold water on that one real quick. It never made much sense, did it? F-16s, that was going to make the difference. So anyway, now we have the wartime economy. That's the new one. And they expect a country like Greece to shift over to a wartime economy. Yeah, right. Try to sell that one to the Greek people. We had protests yesterday evening, right back there, right up that way. Actually, up that way, to be more precise, in Syntagma Square. We had protests because people are furious about the train crash that happened a couple of days ago. 57 people confirmed dead, many of them university students who were traveling for the 3-day Orthodox Lent holiday. And many people are furious because they want to know How in God's name could a passenger train collide with a freight train? How could they be on the same track at the same time, traveling towards each other? For over an hour, they were moving in the same direction. People want answers. Why is all the money that we're paying for in taxes, or all the money that we pay towards the European Union that gets put into these EU funds, these slush funds, why is all this money not going towards making our transportation system here in Greece better and safer? People want to know why. Where's all this money going? So now Borrell and Breton and Schultz and Bidenopoulos, they expect Greek Prime Minister Mitsotakis to go to the Greek people and to say, yeah, instead of focusing on our transportation system and making our transportation system safe, we're going to focus on making ammunition for the corrupt Zelensky regime. That's going to go over really well. The same holds true for the United States. There was a terrible train derailment in Ohio a couple of weeks ago. And Pete Buttigieg, he said that the United States experiences 1,000 train derailments a year. So now Biden is going to go to the American people and say, yeah, instead of taking your taxpayer dollars and, I don't know, maybe investing those taxpayer dollars into infrastructure, I'm going to invest it in making weapons for the Zelensky regime. Okay. That's the plan, though. That is the plan. So that's what they're talking about now. A wartime economy. And of course, all of this has to be done by the springtime because we're going to have the big Ukraine spring offensive or counteroffensive or whatever you want to call it at this point. That's going to be the big one, the springtime offensive. And Ukraine they have to go on an offensive. If they don't go on an offensive, then it's game over. It's game over because NATO is telling them, you need to show progress. If you don't show progress, we can't keep everyone invested in Project Ukraine. What a mess. What a mess they have gotten themselves into, but they continue to lie to us. It's sanctions one month, it's tanks the next month, now it's a wartime economy. As if the EU and the US can sustain a wartime economy. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. Russia's economy has been preparing for this for 8+ years. Russia is in a type of wartime economy footing, but they've been preparing for this, and the Russian economy is not in debt. They're not in debt. And the Russian military industry is very different than the US MIC or the German MIC. It's a much different structure. But to expect the United States and the EU to shift into wartime mode in a couple of months is absurd. The German tank manufacturer Rheinmetall, they came out with a statement saying that they're absolutely on board with building a tank factory in Ukraine. Get this one. Get this story. Get this story here. Rheinmetall, the German tank manufacturer, said that they're ready to build a tank factory in Ukraine. And they said that they're ready to crank out something like 300 or 500 tanks a year. Maybe they even said 800 tanks a year. I think they said they're ready to crank out 800 tanks a year. A German tank factory in Ukraine, cranking out, I guess, Leopard tanks, 800 Leopard tanks a year. And Russia's going to be absolutely cool with that one. they're going to be all right with that one. No problem. Putin's going to say, no problem. Build your factory, crank out your 800 tanks or your 500 tanks. We got no issues with that whatsoever. This should be my clown world, but it's not. Medvedev, he said this about this German tank plant in Ukraine from Germany, from the German company Rheinmetall. He said, the report about the construction of a tank plant by the Rheinmetall concern in Little Russia resembles the primitive trolling of the Kiev regime. I'm putting, this is being put through Translate, so it may be a little bumpy. This event will be duly marked with salutes from caliber and other pyrotechnic devices. So I think you understand what he meant, even though it went through Google Translate. I think you understand what Medvedev meant in his statement. Build your tank factory, absolutely, and it'll be welcomed into operation with a couple of Kalibr and Iskander missiles. I mean, this is nonsense. What they're telling us is nonsense, but they're desperate. They are desperate. They need to keep the Ukraine project rolling on. They need to keep it going on because things in Bakhmut are really, really bad. Really bad. Things in Ukraine are really, really bad. And not only Bakhmut, by the way, also Kupiansk. Kupiansk is also getting bad for the Ukraine military. The Ukraine defense minister, he wrote a letter to the 27 EU member states, and he told them that Ukraine needs more ammunition. He said that artillery plays a crucial role in eliminating the enemy's military power. On average, Ukraine was firing 110,000, 155 caliber shells a month, Reznikov said, a quarter of the amount used by Russia. If we were not limited by the amount of available artillery shells, we could use the full ammunition set, which is 594,000 shells per month. He said, referring to the capacity of the artillery systems available to Ukraine. According to our estimates, for the successful execution of battlefield tasks, the minimum need is at least 60% of the full ammunition set, or 356,400 shells per month. This is what the Ukraine defense minister, who made a killing off of this food supplies deal, 400 million food supplies deals, but anyway, we won't talk about that. This is what he wrote, the 27 EU member states. In other words, you guys better start pumping out ammo for us or else. So get cranking, Europe. We need ammunition. That's what he wrote, the EU member states. Zelensky, in his address the other day, he said that artillery is number one. This is what we need, both systems and ammunition, shells in large quantities. He also said that Ukraine needs planes, not to say or promise, but just to train our guys and transfer planes. That also went through Translate. It's a little bumpy, but basically it's Zelensky saying, don't just promise us planes, give us planes. He also said that Ukraine has no tanks, so he needs tanks. I believe that whatever it is, we will get a tank army, Zelensky said. Our armed forces are already being trained. It will be soon, but nevertheless, there is a certain deficit. I thought that Ukraine had captured so many Russian tanks in the siege of Kiev and the great Kharkov counteroffensive and the great Kherson counteroffensive. I thought that Ukraine captured so many tanks that they had more tanks now than when the conflict with Russia started. Isn't that what all the geopolitical and military experts were telling us? That's what they were telling us. Ukraine has more tanks than when they started this war. Why is the president of Ukraine now announcing that they have no tanks? How did this happen? On USA Today, the USA Today website, March 2nd, 2023, they published a story, not March 2nd, 2022, March 2nd, 2023. They published a story with the title, Russia will be out of military tools by spring, Ukraine's top military spy says. And they reference Major General Kirill Budanov. This guy's become like the new Arestovich for the Zelensky regime. A top Ukraine military intelligence officer predicted that Russia will run out of the military tools necessary for its war in Ukraine by the end of the spring. Russia has wasted huge amounts of human resources, armaments, and materials. Its economy and production are not able to cover these losses. It's changed its military chain of command. If Russia's military fails in its aims this spring, it will be out of military tools. Oh, man. You want to hear some coping with Bakhmut? Here's the coping that's going on with the fall of Bakhmut. This is from the Twitter account, War Monitor, blue check mark. The defense of Bakhmut goes down in history, an embarrassment for the Russian military, whatever way they spin it. An embarrassment for the Russian military, whatever way they spin it. The reply from the Twitter account, Russians with attitude. This is what they replied to this statement. This is what they replied with. The defense of Bakhmut goes down in history as the first major battle in the modern period when a private structure defeated the regular army of a large country in combined arms warfare. I have nothing else to add. Referencing Wagner. A lot of people are talking about how Russia wasted time and resources taking a city and a region of little strategic importance. So, joke's on you, Putin. Joke's on you. Bakhmut is of little strategic importance anyway, which is why the Zelensky regime continued to pour everything that they had into Bakhmut and still continues to pour resources and men into Bakhmut because it holds little strategic importance. This is what Zelensky told Congress in December. This is what he told Congress. Remember when he gave Pelosi and Kamala Harris a flag signed by troops in Bakhmut, a place which has little strategic importance, but Zelensky decided to give a flag signed by those troops to Pelosi and to Kamala Harris, even though it has little strategic importance. Anyway, this is what he said, and I quote, "The fight for Bakhmut will change the trajectory of our war for independence and freedom." Little strategic importance. The fight for Bakhmut will change the trajectory of our war for independence and freedom. This quote may be more right than I thought, but just not in the direction that Zelensky was thinking of. Anyway, there are protests in Bulgaria. Not protests, they're celebrations in Bulgaria to commemorate the 145 years when Russia helped liberate Bulgaria from the Ottoman Empire rule. And I saw some of the videos of Bulgarians walking in the streets carrying the Bulgarian flag and the Russian flag. This is a very important day, a very important event for Bulgaria. But I've been reading reports that Bulgaria is one of the top countries in the EU producing weapons and ammo for the Zelensky regime. There were protests in Slovakia against the conflict in Ukraine and against the government in Slovakia's support for the conflict in Ukraine. Big protests. The numbers range between 25 and 30,000 people in the streets protesting the government's support of the conflict and of the Zelensky regime. And actually in Slovakia, from what I understand, they're having protests almost on a weekly basis now. The protests are coming in Europe. And you're going to tell EU citizens that their economies are going to become wartime economies? That is not going to go over too well. Either way, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, he decided to visit Kiev. What is a U.S. Attorney General doing in Kiev? I have no idea. But he definitely got the permission of the Russians before he went to Kiev. I am absolutely 100% sure that the U.S. government called Vladimir Putin and they said, can we send Merrick Garland to visit Zelensky? And Putin said, Merrick who? And they said, our Attorney General. And Putin said, oh, that guy. That guy. Yeah, sure. Send him over. We'll let him pass. No problem. And so he went to Kiev and he kissed the ring of Zelensky. The official reason for the trip, this is the official reason, is that Merrick Garland is going to be helping the Zelensky regime to formulate their war crimes policy. Because Merrick Garland, he's a war crimes specialist, and he's going to act as a legal consultant to the Zelensky regime so that they can put together their war crimes policy for after they win the war and they decide to charge Putin and Lavrov and Zakharova and Medvedev with war crimes. So that's what Merrick Garland is doing in Kiev. That's the official reason for his trip. The real reason? I don't know. What do you think is the reason Merrick Garland went to Kiev? Keep in mind, Biden went to Kiev. The next week, Yellen went to Kiev, the U.S. Treasury Secretary. This week, Merrick Garland goes to Kiev, the President, the Treasury Secretary, the Attorney General. What is going on? Maybe some washing of funds or something? I don't know. 10% for the big guy? I have no idea. I'm just saying. I don't know. I have no idea. The official reason is war crimes policy. That's the official reason. Anyway, let's do a clown world. This clown world is a video. It is from the White House spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre. Is that how you pronounce it? Karine Jean-Pierre. She, well, I don't even think I need to say anything. Just keep in mind that that Maria Zakharova, when she heard this video, she posted on Telegram, "Zombie apocalypse." That's what she posted. This is Karine Jean-Pierre.
We'll also discuss other international security challenges, including our work together to address the challenges posed by the People's Republic of Russia.
The People's Republic of Russia. The PRR, everybody. I give you the PRR, the People's Republic of Russia. and this is, just one final note, and I'm signing out. This person is supposed to be the number one, the top communicator in the United States. I mean, she is the top media communications professional in the United States. The People's Republic of Russia. Just keep that in mind. And this is the White House that is going to fight a war against Russia and a war against China. Maybe that's why she said the PRR. Maybe they've just started to meld the the two countries together. Hey, it's one way to explain it. Anyway, that's the video, guys. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rockfin as well. If you're wondering where I am, at the metro. That's where I am. The metro and the parking station underneath. So actually the metro is over there, and this is the parking area. So that's the video, everybody. Duran Shock, 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.